Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 in a series of videos for Sovrano. In this video I'm going to show you some actual gameplay. Now I have the game set up. We're just going to go ahead and start. Now remember, at the start of the game, the starting player, we're going to start over here with a light colored player. They can only take up to 2 actions, and then starting after that everybody gets 3 actions. So we're going to just do a very quick starter for the game. We're going to start moving one piece, and then I'm going to move a second piece, and that's the end of the light player's turn. We now go to the dark player, who now gets up to 3 actions they can take. They're going to start by moving 1, 2, and then 3 pieces. That's the end of their turn. Back over to the light player, who gets to now make up to 3 moves if they want. Remember, you don't have to take all 3, but we do have a minimum of 1 action that is required. They're going to move 1 and 2, and then they're going to stop right there. Then we go back up to the dark player, who's going to go 1, 2, and finally they're going to move up to 3 pieces. Now we get to go back to the light player, who gets to make a decision on what they want to do. They're going to move 1, 2, and then finally 3 spaces, and then they're going to be finished. The dark player is going to move 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then their turn is going to be over. We now go back to the light player, who is going to move 1 and 2, and now they have effectively prevented the dark player from taking these towers, at least for now, unless they can block in. Because if the dark player does take these tower locations, they're immediately going to be shot by the archers, wasting their pieces. So now the light player has played a little more defensively and managed to block the towers from the dark player, who now needs to change up their strategy and slow down their strategy and figure out what they want to do, because otherwise they're going to just move pieces in, watch them slowly get captured, and slowly lose the game. Now the light player has actually only moved 2 pieces, so they can move 1 more piece if they like before they end their turn, even though they managed to lock down these towers. So we're going to move 1 more piece, we're going to move 1 guard up, 1 spot, and now our turn is over. Now again, back to the dark player, needs to change up their strategy and figure out what they want to do to try to get these towers and possibly start getting some victory points without just sacrificing their pieces hand over fist. So we'll go 1, 2, and then finally 3. That's going to end our turn over there. And then back to the light player, who's going to move 1, 2, and then finally 3. Back to the dark player, who's going to move up and go 1, 2, and then finally 3, just like that. And now their turn is over. And now the white player has to be very careful, because I see that the dark player is starting to line up their guards for a potential counterattack. And remember, counterattacks are the things that the guards can do that makes them very deadly if we don't pay attention to them. Not only do we have to worry about archers attacking at range, but we have to worry about the guards doing the counterattack, which can slowly start taking our pieces away through a war of attrition if we're not very careful. So now that we know what we need to pay attention for, we need to figure out what we want to do to try to counter that strategy and make sure we're not bunching up too much, which is kind of what we've been doing. We're kind of playing a little bit too defensively, and the darker player is starting to spread out a lot better than we are. So we have to pay attention to exactly what we want to do, so we don't fall in a trap and kind of fall in our own, put our own neck in our own noose and kind of lose the game. So we're going to move 1, 2, and then finally 3. Again, setting up a guard maneuver for a counterattack if we need to. Hopefully putting a thorn in the dark player's side, and hopefully we can slow down their strategy. So the dark player is going to move 1, 2, and then they're going to finally move up their emperor 1 spot, and that's going to end their turn. And now we as a light player see that we managed to box ourselves in, because we see that we are now the target for an archer on both ends if we don't move this piece. So if we want to save this piece, we're going to have to move it, but we also have to make sure we're not losing our counterattack or our guard, and also making sure we're not putting ourselves in a lot of trouble from the darker player. So what we're going to do is, instead of sacrificing that piece, we are going to move it 1 spot over. That's going to be our first move, and now we have 2 actions left to do. We're going to advance our emperor up 1 spot as our second move, and then we're going to advance this guard as our third move, and now we get to go back to the dark player. The dark player for their turn is going to advance 1 guard up. They're going to follow it with their emperor. Then they're going to move 1 more guard up, fully falling up behind, and now we get to go back to the light player. Now the light player is actually in a little bit of trouble, and the light player is now just finally realizing what kind of trouble they're in, because they know this piece is pretty much doomed right here from the get-go. They know they're going to lose this piece, but they need to figure out how they want to lose this piece. Of course, they could play defensively and back up and become a target for the archers. They could advance forward and take this piece and become a target for the emperor, giving the emperor access to the crown. Or we can simply move aside to either one of the side spots, again just becoming a victim for the dark player. So we need to figure out what we want to do, because we're quickly going to put ourselves in a lot of trouble giving the game to our opponent if we're not quick and smart and try to adjust our strategies very, very quickly. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to advance, and we are going to take this spot, capturing the very first piece in this game. We now have 2 actions left over. We need to figure out exactly what we want to do, and again, we want to play very, very smart here, because this could very quickly end up very bad for the light player. For our second action, we're going to move one guard over to the side, and then we're going to move this archer over to the side. We're no longer locking down this tower so our opponent can go in there and start getting victory points, but now we can at least lock down the crown and prevent the opponent's emperor from moving in that spot, getting the 3 bonus victory points, and winning the game. That's all 3 of the moves for the light player. It's now time for the dark player to go. There's something going to take this guard, capture this guard, take that spot away. That's our very first action. We now have 2 actions left over. Our next action is to back our archer up 1 spot, and then finally our third action is to go ahead and capture this tower, which is going to allow us to gain 1 victory point if we still hold this tower at the start of our next turn. That's it for the dark player. We now get to move back to the light player. The light player for their turn is going to move 1 guard, a second guard, and then finally they're going to move a third guard. That's going to end their turn. And now the dark player gets to go. The first thing the dark player is going to do is get 1 victory point for controlling 1 tower. Then they're going to take 1 move as their first action. Then their second move is to move 1 guard up and advance 1 space with that final guard right there. And then for the third action, they are thinking about moving right here and forcing the white player to start moving their pieces and to start being more defensive, or at least causing them to backpedal just a little bit. The white player for their turn is going to capture this spot right here. The next thing they're going to move is their second move is right here. And then finally, the third move is to back up right here, making sure they get a counterattack if they decide to try to take this tower back. That's it for the light players. Now back to the dark player's turn, who's going to move 1 piece right here, a second piece right here, and then finally a third piece right here. Now we get to go back to the light player. They're going to start their turn by controlling 2 towers, so they will gain 2 victory points at the start of their turn. And then they will proceed to move 1, 2, and decide to move this guard up. Move this guard up right here, right there to take that spot. That's going to be it for the light player's turn. We now get to go back to the dark player's turn, who's going to move 1, 2, and then finally they're going to move their third piece right up to that spot right there. The white player on their turn will capture a guard with their emperor, move their archer over 1 spot like that, and then they have 1 move left over. They will use that to advance. Ooh, tough call. I think what we're going to do is we're going to advance this 1 guard right here, and I should have taken my 2 victory points for my tower at the start of my turn, but that's all 3 of my actions. That's the end of the light player's turn. We get to go back to the dark player's turn, who will move 1 piece up. They'll move a second piece up right there. And then finally, they will use this archer to take out this guard. That's 3 actions for the dark player. We now get to go back to the light player. Light starts their turn by taking 2 victory points for holding the tower. We know we need to do something about our emperor right here unless we want to instantly lose the game. So we will back our emperor up 1 spot as our first action. We want to keep this archer right here to keep guarding the spot so the emperor doesn't take the spot from us and make us lose the game instantly. So we have 2 actions left. We will advance 1, and then we will advance, I think we'll advance 2 pieces right here to put pressure on our enemy to force them to do something with this piece, or we're going to take that spot away from them. For the dark player's turn, their first action is they're going to take this tower away from the player because they don't want them constantly getting victory points. They're going to take this piece as a second action from them because, again, they don't like them getting all those victory points. And then finally, we're going to back our archer up, putting pressure on them to make them make a decision about this tower. The white player gets to start their turn. They're going to take 1 victory point for having that tower. And then they need to figure out what they want to do with the remaining pieces on the board. I think what we'll do is we'll go 1, 2, and finally we'll go 3 as a kind of a semi-defensive move. Dark player gets to start their turn. They're going to gain a victory point for their tower. They're going to use their archer to take out this guy so they don't gain more victory points for light player. And then we'll simply take out this archer and we'll advance on top of the crown. It's now back to the light player who needs to figure out any way they can to take out their emperor within 1 turn, or the dark player is going to instantly win the game even though we have less victory points. Actually, no, we don't even need to worry about it. We're actually quite happy if they take that spot. So let's go ahead and ignore that move for just a moment because the dark player doesn't want to give the game to the light player. And that'd be actually a very terrible move because that would give us 5 victory points. put us at 6 victory points versus 7 for the light player. So that's actually doing the math very quickly. Doing that would actually take the crown but give the game to our opponent, so we don't want to do that. And now I know I just broke one of the biggest taboos for any chess style game by taking a move back, but hopefully since you understand this is just a sample gameplay video, I'm trying to show you all the potential moves of the game. You give me a little bit of credit there and hopefully allow me to take that move back, and now we'll move over to the light player's turn. The light player's turn, they're simply going to use this archer, take this guy out, prevent the dark player from getting more victory points. The next thing we'll do is we'll advance this guard, and then find this guard, we'll take this guard out, and that's going to be the end of the light player's turn. Now we get to move back to the dark player. For the dark, we're going to take one move, a second move, and finally we will take... We got to play this very, very smart because we can still lose this game very easily. Even though we sort of have the upper hand right now, but we still have to play very, very smart. Move right there, ending our turn, back to the light player's turn now. Light player will advance 1. They will advance 2. And then finally, we will advance 3. That'll be it for that turn. Now we need to figure out what we want to do with the dark player. The dark player could move here and lose the game. We could keep this piece here and lose the game, but we need to do something very, very smart here because things are going to go very south for us very, very quickly if we don't start playing very smart against what's going on with the light player. So we're going to advance 1, 2 to bring up our reinforcements. And this is positioned well, so we'll simply move there and we'll be done. The light player is going to press their advantage, move up 1 piece right there. And let's see here. That's probably not even the best move in the world either, but we're still going to take it. We'll move our second piece right here. And then we definitely need to move our emperor, otherwise we're going to lose and get an archer in our back of our head there very, very quickly. So we just need to figure out where we want to put our emperor that's going to be most advantageous to us and prevent us from being in too much trouble. So we'll take our emperor, and tough calls all the way around here. I think we're just going to back our emperor up 1 space over here. We go back to dark, who's going to start their turn, gaining a victory point for the tower they control. And then they're going to use an emperor to capture this guard. And then we have 1 action left over. And I think we're going to use that 1 action to put some pressure on our opponent. I think you've seen enough gameplay for Sovrano to figure out what kind of game this is and see what kind of abstract game this is. Now, I could continue playing this game, but I think you're already starting to notice I'm already starting to second guess my moves, and my turns are starting to get a little bit slower there, and I don't want to make this overview sample gameplay video boring for anybody to watch. I want to sit here for a few minutes and try to decide exactly what kind of moves I want to make. This is definitely one of those games that the more you play, you're probably going to want to start incorporating a chess clock in this game, especially in the later moves of the game, where players are going to start overthinking and overanalyzing all their turns because they're trying to agonize over what moves they want to do, remembering that their opponent can take anywhere from 1 to 3 moves that can blow any of your strategies out of the water. So I hope you enjoyed this sample gameplay video. Stay tuned for my full review of Sovrano, where I'll give you my opinions on the game. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed this video series, click that like button, click that subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching.